Hello everyone. Wow, here we are, the last chapter. We've done a lot of reading, a lot of learning. This chapter is talking about the future of the deaf community and what that looks like, and what lies ahead for us. So let's take a look. And truly, now is best time ever for the deaf community. As we look back through deaf people and what they've fought through, I think in America at least, there's more opportunities. ASL is recognized as a language and as a foreign language, and we see that popping up all over the place. And on the other hand, billions of dollars is being spent to fix or cure or eliminate deafness. So we have two things going on right now that are happening, which is great. We should recognize all of the great that we have, but we also need to recognize what else is happening. So there are three possibilities that could happen and what it could look like. So the first being a thriving deaf community. And right now we're doing pretty good. We're thriving. It's the best time, as I just said. There are laws in place that advocate and support. There's a lot of services for the deaf community. There's more accessibility and equal rights. A lot more awareness of the culture and language. People are recognizing the deaf culture and specific norms and whatnot, and that's being spread around the U.S. and technology as well. Obviously, technology is taking off for deaf people and hearing people. Video relay, FaceTime, video relay service. There's a lot more positive perspectives to being deaf. People are a little bit more aware. There's a better view on deaf people and realize that deaf people can live a quality life. And there's more of an understanding of deaf gain, that it's cool, that there's a little bit of a win compared to being hearing. You can sign through a window, you can sign in the water. When you're sleeping, you aren't bothered by things going on around you. All of those things, deaf gain. So this quote by Murray: explorations of deaf ways of being in the world as a way that's contributed to cognitive, creative, and cultural diversity of the human experience. So there's a little bit of respect for the deaf community. And ASL is the third used language in the U.S. And we see more ASL classes being offered all over the place. The second scenario could be a vanishing deaf community. As I said, technology is taking off, and a lot of technology is being put toward to fix and cure the deaf community, and that could diminish the community itself. Money being put into healthcare. They're trying to find a way to find a cure. Cochlear implants, hearing aids, that technology is being pushed to provide more solutions for parents who don't know what to do with their deaf child or deaf baby, and they're not quite sure or clear about what is the best option. Genetic counseling as well. There's a lot of research right now to eliminate the deaf gene, and my family is genetically deaf, so they're trying to eliminate that gene. They're working on that. They have been working on that. Also, the hearing thought that being segregated is bad, that it's taboo. That way everyone should be all inclusive. And deaf people are different, so that thought of, oh, it's taboo to have these children separated in school and whatnot, and they continue to push that with laws and such to make everyone all inclusive, but sometimes that doesn't benefit the deaf person. But maybe that might push deaf people to be more included in the hearing community and speak. That $400 million was in 2009 in technology, cures, and medical research to find a cure. Eugenics and cell-free fetal DNA analysis. they are researching how to mutate the genes to eliminate deafness and among other things. That means maybe sometime in the future you could figure that out and have a choice if you'd like to have this child or not. And understand most hearing families have genes that they're unaware of, and then they find their mate and they have children, and you could decide that if you don't want to have a deaf child. So maybe deaf parents want that, which is only in a few, but that may be dwindling. Third option could be a growing multi-handicapped community, not only deaf, but deaf plus community. I think about 33% is up right now at this point. Residential schools, many have become deaf plus schools for many children, not just deaf school exclusive. It's already happening. School districts and whatnot are pushing students to be mainstream, and if that doesn't work, they tend to ship those kids off to the deaf school, and then it's recognized that most of those students have something else that they're challenged with in the school system. One school in America, the American School for the Deaf, currently serves a small group of just deaf students, a larger group of deaf plus, and then they have a large center and large program for autistic deaf students, maybe hearing as well, but there is a large program within their school, so we already noticed that change happening around the U.S. There's only a few deaf schools who are just deaf students with high number, because I know a lot of the schools are dwindling, maybe down to 50 students. Fremont, luckily, I think at this point has about 300 or so. Back in my time, it was around 500, so now it's down to 300, so it is dwindling. Yeah, we talk about fixing income, and who gets rich off of that? Cochlear Limited, Octacon, the hearing aid industry, they're continuing to profit. And they get money doing the surgery, doing treatments, things like that, and they just keep profiting. So you see here in 2007, they profited $100 million, and it went up to $180 million by 2011. So you can see how much they are earning and how quickly they're earning and getting rich on our deaf people. And the average salary for audiologists, $66,000, $98,000 for speech pathologists, $30,000 per year tuition for private oral school education. It's a lot of money. And often health insurances do support that and encourage people to go do and have those surgeries. And I've heard stories that they'll provide full coverage and of all the costs for surgery, but they won't cover simple hearing aids or partial, even though hearing aids are cheaper. It makes no sense. And sometimes I do wonder if they do care, and I'm sure they have some people with good hearts and think that they're doing the best, but in general, it's all money. As you can see this sign here, I'm signing money in their eyes, dollar signs in their eyes, that people are they're just swimming in cash. The book talks about Super Bill, AB 2072. Really, it's a law that's created to try and show that they're there for deaf children, but they're really not, and they're just profiting. The businesses, the schools, and all of that. Again, they're pushing oralism, cochlear implants, and speech. I just want to show you this. It's not the first time, and it won't be the last time. Deaf people just have to watch and be cautious and vigilant if new bills come out. Maybe make sure it's the right bill and it's okay. This woman will talk about that bill and why it can look like it's good, but it is not at all. It's all about going to those hearing people who have led this, and they're all about money and their life and not really caring about deaf children's lives. There will be a hearing 2 weeks from now, April 13th. On the floor, there will be a new bill proposed by the legislator, Tony Mendoza. If you look at the names to find out who is endorsing this bill, California Coalition. Appearing inside the coalition, its members are audiologists, option schools such as Auralingua, CCHAT, and others. Absent are deaf-centric or consumer-driven organizations. No leading organizations like California Association for the Deaf, GLAD, Deaf Counseling Advocacy Referral Agency, NorCal, Deaf Hope, ASL programs, interpreter training programs, deaf educators, professionals with schools for the deaf. None of them are included. None. Those included are all private and for-profit entities. This bill, AB 2072, proposes newborn hearing screening programs will comply with a list of requirements that are inadequate. There's a group of deaf consumers who advocate for language competency and for deaf babies. This consumer group, which includes hearing parents and others, diverse hearing parents and the like, have been in dialogue with the Senator to reform NHSP newborn hearing screening programs. We want the new system to only identify deaf infants early on. Only that, and not include information or provide information. When it's detected, the state should then implement an education plan for the infant and the family. So the infant can get an early start on language acquisition, which could include ASL, which allows for natural language proficiency, that would enable a well-rounded, developed, and provide foundation for a diversity of other competencies. This would include speech therapy and listening and other language options. We've been working together to reform the current system, which would be a big, significant step toward reform. But out of nowhere appeared AB 2072. Their proposal amounts to a perpetuation of the old, failed system, in which when a baby is found to be deaf, the first referral will be to an audiologist, which would focus on characterizes if you have any residual hearing, to marginalization of sign language, portrayed as oralism takes over. It's the same old, it's the status quo of the past 130 years. AB 2072 proposal is strengthening the current system. It proposes options, it says. Options seem appealing and seem great. This euphemism invokes the American ideal of freedom of choice. However, there are problems. There is no discussion. No encouragement of natural language acquisition. No consideration of language as a catalyst for early learning. It doesn't. It simply reiterates oral communication, cued speech, and sign language. Oral communication gets primacy because dollars are involved. It says free fact sheet will be provided. To audiologists who can distribute it to the parents who have recently discovered that their child is deaf. The problem is deaf consumer organizations are excluded. The problem is that it is not an improvement over existing legislation, although imperfect, it at least says that language is stating that information must come from consumer-based groups. This means deaf people, parents of deaf children, and others with first-hand knowledge as living as deaf people. AB 2072 would remove this language. Consumer-based groups would be stricken. and replaced with audiologists. This means parents would get information through only audiologists. Now, who pays the audiologists? Who? What is their training, their education background? Do they have any understanding of deaf culture? Knowledge of ASL? No. Therein lies the danger. That is devious. Our group has decided to say no. We oppose AB 2072, and isn't the first time actually. This is the third time. The first 2 times a legislator contacted deaf constituents and asked them for their views. After giving them that, they dropped their sponsorship. Both times at different legislators sponsoring the bill, we say no. However, the bill has been drafted and has already been circulated. And we're concerned. This will be a challenge. We need to unify. We need to be vocal with our opposition. Optimal language acquisition. We don't need to give deaf infants opportunity. We need to maximize their early language potential early on so they can gain a solid foundation. That is the answer. We need to continue to work toward the reform of the NHSP and complete the groundwork for that. The education is not an issue. It's not a health issue. So what I want you to do is discuss your pros or positive views about deaf people, about this chapter, where we're headed. So please discuss that. And also please talk about the cons of what you see, how it can impact the deaf community and such. So discuss that as well. And we bring this to a close. In terms of our hopes and our dreams, deaf people will always continue to hope and to dream about the best for our future, for our deaf children. In the past, we've done this fight, and we will continue to do so now. And hope that we thrive. We continue to look and try to do the best for our community. We'll always hope and dream. And here we are. We are all done with the book, with class. I hope you enjoyed learning. You have a little bit more understanding about deaf people, the deaf culture, the language, and how special we are. I hope to see you out in the community, whether you know sign or don't know sign. Remember to support and respect and cherish the community. Hope to see you around.